Cheers, everyone. I am here with Khepra Anu, and we actually started off on a really nice day, decided to go in the park here to film this video about raw food, nutrition, and health, but I think we're about to experience a bit of a storm now, so we'll see how this goes. You know, if there is an interruption, it's gonna start pouring or something, so we have a leaf fall on us. I don't know if you can see this. But anyhow, this is an interview with Khepra. Khepra is an owner of a restaurant that's actually called Khepra's Raw Juice and Bar. Am I getting that?
Raw Food Juice Bar.
Raw Food Juice Bar, right? For those who don't know it, it's located near Union Station on H Street in Washington, D.C. So especially if you're in the area, you should definitely come check it out. I will be frank, it's the only place in the city where I myself will eat. Man, this is really dusty here, isn't it? So, but yes. So here's our interview, and today we're going to talk about raw food, nutrition, and using those things as tools to improve your life, your longevity, your vitality, and just overall increase the quality of your life. So, Khepra, I know, I said a little bit. I know what you do, but maybe for the viewers, can you give us, what are your current projects, aside from your restaurant, so basically, what are you up to?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for the opportunity for the interview. Very honored to be able to share, my story and any information that could be useful to anyone. Well, currently, in addition to the restaurant, I have. That really takes up a lot of my time. But I'm the author of a book, Paradise Health. I published that in 2012. I have a DVD series as well, where I teach, raw food preparation and cuisine. I do occasional classes and workshops, retreats, tropical retreats.
You mostly do it in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So.
But I've done it in other places as well. I've been to, most of the islands in the Caribbean, and including Panama as well.
I see.
That definitely fills out my time and my schedule. I've been doing more teaching and lecturing as well. That's something that I've been pretty active with.
I see. So what are the typical topics that you lecture on? Is it pretty much around raw food or some other things as well?
Well, if I'm not doing a food demonstration, I'm talking about just the purpose of raw food, and a lot of times I'll talk about raw food as real food. I talk about detoxification, the importance of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about some of the philosophy in terms of looking at food as connecting flavor with nutrition.
Right.
So those are some of the things that I mostly talk about.
I see. So pretty much related to the raw food thing. You just kind of circle around it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, everything that I get into, even if it's not necessarily directly food related, it's definitely health related. And as a holistic being, we have to always connect the dots.
Sure.
With relationships, family, community, food, they're all interconnected.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that. You're probably familiar with this, but there's an exercise you do in these development classes of various kinds where you just draw a circle, right? And each spoke of the circle represents an area of your life. Like you said, one could be food, another could be your family, your work. So, and basically the length of the spoke goes from 0 to 10, say, right? So 10 being it's the perfection, 0 near the center means you don't have it developed at all. So, and what you're trying to do is make sure that the wheel is round in your life, right? Whether it's small or big, but it has to be round. Because if you take nutrition to 10 and everything else is a 2 or 1, you're so off balance. So it's your nutrition is not going to stay there, or it will help you to bring everything back, to even higher level, like relationships and things like that.
Right. That's an excellent analogy. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, the fact that when for me, I imagine a wheel. In order for that wheel to function smoothly, like you said, it has to be balanced.
Right.
Each spoke in the wheel has to go out a certain distance. And
right.
Like you said, I'm just regurgitating what you said because
I think I really like that analogy.
Every area of your life should match. But I will say this. Food is one of the foundational pillars. So when you get the food right in your life, then everything else should really, that will sort of inspire or really allow everything else to come to that level as well. At least in terms of the physical body.
Right.
You'll be able to think clearer. You'll be able to work better. You'll be able to do these things at a higher level versus if you're not operating optimally by not eating optimally.
Right. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, to everyone. Like, you cannot really think of some exciting projects, whether it's, I don't know, like painting or software or whatever you might be doing, or even something doing with your children if you have them, if your body aches and hurts and, you have to, it's not obviously the same level of enjoyment. I mean, that's pretty clear. So I should have said this in the beginning, but Khepra and I, before we started this video, we were talking about basically how the mistakes people make in choosing various information sources. And one thing him and I agreed on, which Khepra, how much, like, what's your, I guess, how much time you have in the raw food community? And I mean, being on raw food, we have to say that Khepra is raw, I'm raw. I have a lot less time than him, but so maybe you can share how much time you've been doing this. And
I've been doing raw food off and on since I became pretty much a vegetarian, and that was 1990.
1990. That's 27 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
I started doing raw food 100% in the year 2000.
Okay, so that's also a long time. That's 17 years.
Yeah. So there was a difference, obviously. I mean, I did a lot of experimenting in that 10-year period, between 1990 and the year 2000. But definitely since the year 2000, 100%.
Right. So, and I'm sure this what I'm about to ask you has evolved over the years, both from 1990 and after 2000. Like on an average day, on a typical day, what are the things that you might eat, or you do eat?
Well, it changes. It certainly evolved, like from when I first started doing raw foods till now.
Right.
Right. I mean, for the most part, right now I eat pretty much one meal a day. And when I say meal, I'm not counting things like water and juice, even though those are form of nourishment.
Right.
And then also fruit. Fruit to me, when I say meal, I'm talking about like really adding like fats, proteins, something that, it takes like at least 2 hours to digest.
Right, like making fruit. A rich salad of some sort.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Most fruit will pretty much process within 20 to 30 minutes.
Yes. Juicy, light stuff.
Right.
Yes.
So, I do one meal a day. So, typically, like right now, it's 3 o'clock.
Yes, about 3 in the afternoon. We're filming this.
So I haven't had my meal yet.
Okay.
I've had about 4 or 5 juices, and I've had some fruit. And I want to touch on that for a second because,
sure.
Because there's a lot of philosophy, and even within the raw food. And I definitely feel like we should have a balance of You know, when you look at raw food, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, sprouts, those kinds of things. But if there was one food group above the rest that I would single out, it would definitely be fruit. And the thing is like, you know, fruit can often get a negative stigma, you know, in terms of the sugar content and as such, but
Right, right. Like in the diabetics community, there's a lot of that, right? You have to avoid fruit or not eat it or things like that. So,
right. Or people just have just a negative just with sugar, period. And the thing is like really everything is sugar. You know, whether it tastes bitter or salty or it all breaks down into simple sugar. So the thing is that fruit, whether it's a sweet tasting fruit or bitter tasting fruit or fatty fruit, is the optimal food for the human being. So with that said, you know, the juices that I'm drinking are largely fruit juices. So it's just really a liquid form of fruit
right, right.
that I'm giving my body most of the day. Um, and then one of the fruits that I've been really indulging in over the last few months has been durian.
Durian. So
Yes.
that's for those who don't know. I mean, it's a pretty exotic fruit, right? But
Yes.
it's I mean, in many ways, it resembles avocado, and it's a very fatty fruit,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Well, it doesn't have as much fat content as avocado.
So it's less in fat than avocado.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it's very nourishing. Like you start eating it, and you know after maybe I don't know a cup of durian or 2 cups, and you're full.
Right.
So you know what that signals is that that it's loaded nutritionally. You know, foods that have a high nutritional value, they will basically allow you to not eat that much of it
Right.
because it's giving you what you need nutritionally
Right.
without necessarily filling your stomach.
Right.
So again, very effective, very efficient. And these are the kind of fruits. These are high level, what I call master fruits.
Right. Well, okay. So durian would be one of your master
Durian
fruit.
is at the top.
Okay.
Durian is
That's
at the
the
top.
number one.
That's the number one.
Okay.
In fact, I'm gonna do a blog on the 5 master fruits. But since we're talking about it, you know.
Well, okay.
Why
I mean,
not?
if you don't want to spoil, give us like top three,
Okay. We get.
or at least any three. So whatever, in any order.
Okay. Well, I'll say durian. Durian is at the top of the list. We'll say avocado.
Avocado. That's
Avocado.
excellent. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
And olive.
Olives.
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 You know,
Okay.
so what I consider to be a master fruit is fruit that does have some fat, and you could make a meal out of, like on its own. So, and then there's 2 more that I won't mention. You know,
They're probably more down to earth. Okay. More
they're
common.
they're more exotic, not so.
Oh, more exotic even.
They're more in the category of durian.
Okay. Okay. So there are a lot of people. Since we're talking about exotic fruit, what's your take? Like, obviously here, both of us are in Washington D.C., and this area, I would say, has somewhat mild climate, right? We do have some winter. We get snow generally a couple times, 2-3 times a winter.
Mm-hmm.
It gets below 32, so below the freezing point of water. But we can still have access to good fruit from overseas and so on. Like, what is your take on people trying to do a raw food diet, like in not such mild climates, like where it gets really cold? Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah.
Like perhaps here in the States, maybe like climate like Michigan or Minnesota, could people still be successful with it? Do you know of any examples?
For the most part, yes. You can be successful. What I would say is that raw food is a cooling diet for the most part. Like it
Like cooling in a like yogic sense, or
yes,
yogic? Okay.
in an ancient, when we look at like traditional Chinese medicine or the science of, when you say yogic, it's really Ayurveda.
Right.
You know, the Ayurvedic tradition. Cooling in the sense that it's cooling. Now, cooling is good because cooling is healing. Now, there are more warming foods, but when we look at foods that warm the body, those are going to be obviously probably more from animals.
Sure. Or some spicy stuff,
Right.
which you have a lot of in your restaurant.
Exactly.
Perhaps there is a reason, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
yeah, sure.
I think we have to cover the spectrum, and get a balance of heating foods, cooling foods. But in general, raw vegan is cooling. So it's like, what do you do in a colder, temperate environment? Well, obviously in the summer, that's easy.
You can eat apples and
right,
other things.
You can eat, you can eat local for the most part. But in the winter, I mean, it's definitely more of a challenge, and there's no one right suggestion or solution. I would definitely say you could eat mostly, if not all raw, but it has to be less fruits, lots of green leafy vegetables. Because one of the things that, if you're in a colder environment, you're going to be getting less sun, which is why it's cold in the beginning.
Right.
So sun is a food. That's a level of nourishment. So
sure.
we have to go.
Without a doubt, it provides energy, right? Like
exactly.
it feels warm to the skin. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, when we look at that kind of food, like obviously air, breathing, and then sun. So if we're not getting as much sun, then that means we have to get it indirectly, which, obviously we get that from food as well.
Right.
From all food. But when it's colder, we have to shift more towards green leafy vegetables as a base. And then we can also, supplement. Now, if there are any animal products, we really don't get anything nutritionally from animals unless they're in a raw state. So,
right.
So there is a place, I believe, because the thing is, like, say for example, you're taking an extreme, if you're like an Eskimo,
right,
you have to eat what nature gives you.
Right.
There's no fruit trees out there. There's no coconut trees. There's no apples. There's none of that. It's
well, incidentally, Eskimos and other northern kind of peoples and tribes, they have a lot of their diet revolves around raw fish, right?
Exactly.
Or like minimally processed fish, like where they just like let it kind of sit in some marinade or something, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, but also their life expectancy is quite low. Yeah, I don't know if you were aware of that. Like,
oh yeah, I'm very aware.
30 or 40 years, that seems quite low.
Yes,
right?
Even the Maasai people in Africa, is very obviously hot, but it's not tropical. So they eat a lot of cow. They drink the blood, they eat the meat, and they eat a lot. And obviously they're raising these cows very minimally processed.
Right.
They're drinking the blood raw, but very short life expectancy.
Right. Even eating raw meat, they still are not doing too well.
Exactly.
Right. With longevity.
Exactly. Sure. I would be, based on their life expectancy, I would be dead right now.
Yeah, or at least you would be above your time or something. Right.
I would be an elder for sure.
Yeah. So maybe this is a little too provocative question, but like, would you say that raw meat is better than cooked meat? Like, if you eat meat at all, you should try to eat it raw. Like, would you say?
Absolutely. Like the value. We look at it this way: the value in a fruit and a vegetable is in the water content.
Okay,
or
so
in the
could you
juice.
elaborate a little bit?
Like our bodies takes any fruit, any vegetable, and it extracts the water from it like a juicer.
Sure.
So our body works like a juice extractor.
Right.
It extracts the juice and then it lets the fiber go.
Okay.
So the juice is what is nourishing the cells, and that's the water or the
Right.
juice. And I use that interchangeably.
Right.
Now,
So like water serves as a carrier, right, of everything to the cells. So like it carries all the nutrients with it, basically.
exactly.
Right.
So, so, so that's the value of any fruit, vegetable. It needs some water. Now, if we're eating meat, the value in the meat is the blood. So if there's no blood, there's no value.
I see. And mostly, I mean, of course, when we cook meat, or I mean, in this case, neither you nor I cook meat, but when people cook meat, they, I mean, of course, fry it, and do other things with it. They basically deliquify it, or like dehydrate it as much as possible, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
see what cooking is. Cooking is what nature, what nature does to make food ready for us is the cooking process in nature is a ripening process. So that's really what cooking is. Like when we cook on a stove, we're really force ripening the food so we can eat it.
Right.
So if we're cooking like a grain or meat, something that we couldn't chew and digest it in its raw natural state,
Right.
we're ripening it. So it's really cooking is just a form of forced ripening.
Right. It's also like one way I look at it is it's just also a way to make something that's not edible just more palatable, right? Like, I mean, you're just trying to. That's why people go to these lengths of like marinating things and salting and peppering, and which could for good cause. Those could be used as good spices, but basically nobody finds like just a chunk of meat attractive and say like I really want to go at this thing and eat it.
Exactly.
Like that's why you have to do all these things.
Exactly.
So. Okay, let's shift gears here a little bit. I wanted to ask you, kind of get back to your restaurant a little bit. So, I know you specialize because I, frequent your restaurant. As I said, it's like one of the probably the only place in the city where I joyfully eat. Unless I have to grab a salad somewhere, like when I'm out with friends. So, in your place, you specialize in juice fasts, even though you guys don't call it juice fasts, which I agree with. You say juice cleanses and coconut water cleanses, right? So, like on the spectrum of people using nutrition to cleanse, I mean, is it fair to say that you're kind of on the softer side in the sense that you're not like water fasting where people don't eat for 10 days? You're not like dry fasting, which is probably the other extreme, right? You try to do more of a gentle job where you still shut down the nutrition, right, a little bit to let the body do its thing. Like, could you talk about that a little bit?
That's a great question. There are obviously different philosophies and with they're going to be pros and cons to each one of those things that you mentioned.
Even to dry fasting.
Even to dry fasting.
Okay, that I would love to hear. After. So, but go on.
Well, let me discuss the pros, the advantages of juice fasting versus water. The advantage is just like what you said. You're getting nutrition. You're getting and the thing is like the way that the body heals and cleanses itself is that it can't. There's a level. There's the body. There's two functions. There's when we eat to nourish, and then when we don't eat, we cleanse. Now the body can't nourish and cleanse effectively simultaneously.
It's either or,
It's
right?
either or.
Either you're eating or you're healing, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
So
sure.
that's why we sleep every night to heal, to repair. Now, doing a juice, most people are just not, this thing, we're dealing with a animal. this physical body
Sure,
is
sure.
an animal. And
I mean, we like to think that we're like smart and civilized, but I mean, we're very much biological in more ways than we can.
Even when you say smart, like our logic and our ability to analyze and dictate is a blessing as much as it is a curse. Because we can use faulty logic to argue anything.
Yep.
I can say, I can eat these leaves, or I can eat, you can make a logical.
By the way, that would be a raw food diet, right?
Yeah, you can make a logical argument. So our logic often gets us in trouble. Where animals they don't have logic; they operate on instinct.
Right.
So they operate more in balance and more in rhythm with their environment.
With their original programs, so to speak,
Exactly.
right? Yep.
Exactly. So our mental capability gets us in trouble. So I just wanted to say that.
Sure.
Now with juice, the advantage of juice is that with the keeping in mind that we don't cleanse and nourish simultaneously for the most part. But most people are coming off, they're so far off where they should be ideally that there needs to be a bridge.
Like, you mean, just to make sure we understand, you mean in the current society, like this high tech, like big city life, people are so far removed from their ideal health that
Yes.
it's like nearly impossible for them to just do
Right,
like
you
a
put
water
them on
fast.
water, and you're asking for because see, really the only pro for water or even dry fasting is that the less you put in, the faster the body will detox.
Yes, I mean that makes perfect sense. Sure.
So if you juice with water, even with the kind of juice that you drink, see, a lot of people are big on, like, say for example, green juice.
Mm-hmm.
Green juice because it's low in sugar. But the thing is that because greens have more of a concentrated nutrition than fruits, your body doesn't detox as fast as it does with fruits.
That's actually an interesting point. I've never thought of this before, but it makes perfect sense. So it's,
see, people think green and they think they think cleanse and it is, but it doesn't cleanse as fast as fruits.
Right. So like if you drank orange juice, for instance, that would be much more potent in turning on the detox, right? And I don't know if that's
versus like if you drink the juice from oranges versus like a celery kale green mix.
right.
Your body's gonna detox faster with oranges.
Okay.
Citrus. Definitely. So
Right.
and then even that. So you have like greens, and then you have like even fruits. There's a hierarchy. So you have greens, and then you have like maybe your subacid fruits. So those could be like apples, pears, like mangoes.
Stuff with a big seed in the middle, like
Or they can have seeds,
peaches,
right.
and things like
And
that.
then you have your acid fruits, which is your citrus.
Yes.
And then at the top you have your melons. Okay, so the hierarchy, as you go up in terms of water content, you're going up in terms of like the speed of a detox. Versus at the very top is your coconut water.
Okay, so just to make sure we get the hierarchy right, you say at the very top is the coconut water,
Coconut water.
right?
Then
so
you have your melons.
okay, like watermelons,
Watermelons is
like honeydews, things like that,
Yes.
right? Yep.
And then you have your acid fruits, which is your citrus.
Okay. Then subacid fruits,
Then
which
your
are like
subacid.
apples, peaches, things like that.
Right. So with all of those fruits, you can pretty much make a cocktail of all kinds of different juices. And then below that, then I would say your green leafy vegetables.
Okay. So like here's a question. Suppose, we're just gonna get a little practical here, right?
Okay.
If I'm a person who, kind of lives a regular life, works some job somewhere, and here I am starting to think about nutrition a little more, and I hear, I watch this video and I ask myself, what can I do? Like say I give myself 5 days, I'm just gonna, do this juice fast. What kind of juice should I make to give myself like the fastest cleanse? Like, what would you do?
I wouldn't think of it in terms of the fast, because the fastest cleanse is going to be a dry fast. or water fast.
Okay.
I mean, or if you wanted to really say, okay, I want to do a juice, then the fastest cleanse is going to be coconut water.
So like if we do limit it to just juice and not some dry fasting or water fasting, it's really windy here. But so that would be coconut water, right?
Absolutely.
So
like you will detox, and see that this is the magic of the coconut water, because you really, it's one step above water.
water fasting, right?
Right. It's
Yes.
one step above water, because coconut water, it is the only substance that is both a water and a whole food. It is a water and a whole food simultaneously.
So when you say whole food, what
When
do
I
you mean?
say whole food, it will go in your system and produce a bowel movement. So it will
That's
clean your
fascinating.
colon.
Like not just go in and pee, but actually
Right.
produce
You
a
will go
wow.
in and it will move your bowels. So it will go into your colon, your large intestines, and so when you fast on coconut water, you don't need herbal teas, you don't need enema or colonic, you don't need anything except that coconut water. See, with water's not going to do that.
Right. So, I mean, speaking of like enemas and colonics, there are a lot of people who, like in the raw food community, at least it seems to be a debate. Some people say like, if you're not doing those, you're not cleansing. Others say, this is crazy. Your body should know how to cleanse naturally. You shouldn't need to do this. To which the other side replies, well, yes, but your body also is not supposed to eat cooked food and other things. Like, what's your take on that? I mean, should you be able to cleanse without them, or, is this a needed thing?
Well, I mean, when we think of cleanse, we got to think about how long did it take for us to get to the state that we're in presently. So, basically how old
Like as a humanity or as a single body?
as a single body.
Single body. Okay.
So if you're 30 years old, you be eating basically, standard American diet or cooked food diet, then you basically built up 30 years of debris and basically toxins that are lodged throughout your system.
Right.
So the question is like, okay, how long is it going to take for me to peel the onion and get to the core of where I'm basically cleansed? I mean, will it take another 30 years? It doesn't necessarily have to, but it will take some time. Like, we have to be patient and appreciate the journey, and
Yes.
not think like, okay, I've reached this destination, like I'm clean. Like, I think that's impractical and actually a little fanatical, and it could be actually unhealthy.
Right. No, there's certainly a journey. I think I felt like that a little bit when I switched to raw food, and I think maybe 6 or 7 months in, there was a bit of a period where I felt, okay, well, like, is there anything else I can do? And it felt like, okay, I was at the end of the journey, but really now I'm realizing that there's still a lot more to go. For instance, recently I just got a distiller for my water, and there are other things you can do, and it's not some obsession because you're starting to enjoy and appreciate these things more and more, as you go and do them.
Right.
You realize, the importance of this step, and of course to people who are behind you, like people who might still eat regular diet, those steps, getting a distiller would be like something, insane. Basically, they would never understand why you would do it, right? And things like that. So,
But to finish what I was, we're talking about fasting in general. The other, one of the strongest pros. I mean, given the fact that most people are just not ready for water, or even crazier than that, dry fasting. Juice also provides that juice, nature flavored water, also acts like a detergent, a natural detergent in the body.
yes,
So really, it's going to be more effective, in my opinion, in my experience, than even a water fast, because water, again, is just water. It is nourishing you on a certain level in terms of hydrating you, but juice is actually going to go in and work like a detergent in the cells. It's going to help eliminate a lot of the debris that's been built up over your lifetime.
Right.
So that is really one of the main advantages. And then the thing is that the detox, because detoxification most times is uncomfortable. So
headaches, you get,
headaches
things.
are most common, headaches. And then what is not, what can be also common is, nausea. And then, it could be vomiting, diarrhea.
Stuff coming out of a lot of orifices, basically,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you want it, again, you want to do it gentle and over a longer period of time. If you do that over some years, you say, okay, I'm gonna do something once a month or once every quarter, at the very minute, or even once a week. You could fast one day a week. When you do that, there is a cumulative effect. Well, given the fact that you eat correctly in between, that is very important to mention.
Of course, if you go to McDonald's 6 days a week
and then
you
fast, no, that's not going to work.
Yep.
But that is the main advantage, and like I said, it is really the safest, especially with the coconut water as a base. A lot of people, we know that like it could be unsafe for some people to fast.
Right.
And with coconut water, because it's a whole food, it makes it very safe for even people with diabetes or other conditions that they can actually fast. And I have experience with people who's had those kinds of conditions.
So, maybe since we're mentioning this, could you maybe like give a couple of examples? We don't have to name any names, obviously, but like maybe people with like really difficult medical conditions who've improved and the results they've achieved, kind of the before and after type of scenario.
Yeah, there are thousands, but
But so someone maybe you specifically.
Yeah, more so when I was doing it, because I used to do it with groups, and I actually I served as sort of like a counselor, guide.
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely more hands-on. A lot of because I'm kind of, because it's the way the business has evolved, I'm not so one-on-one with the people as I was, but I still get testimonies from people. I know most recently I had a woman with a thyroid condition, and
just a quick comment for those who don't know, thyroid is a gland that's located here in the neck. It's very important. It's pretty much like the hormonal central of your body. If you have a condition there, it messes up the entire endocrine system.
Exactly.
So, but go on.
So, her whole face was swole, and doctors didn't know what to do. And 3 days on juice, swelling gone.
Okay. So, but doctors didn't know what to do with it.
Doctors, when they go into their toolbox, they're just looking for, their cocktail medications. And
Right. It's either medication or cut something off, right? Like a part of the body off,
Exactly.
or a limb or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Drugs and surgery. That's what they're gonna look at. Doctors are getting hip though. They understand that diet and lifestyle is connected, and any good doctor should look at that before they start looking at drugs and or surgery.
Like those should be the last resort,
Exactly.
not the first measure.
Not the first line. No.
Yeah. So.
But they don't get paid to, again, it becomes economic at that point where they're it becomes more of an incentive for them to administer drugs.
Right. Well, that's almost like a topic for another long video, right?
Sure. sure.
So I'll ask you a couple more questions because it's getting chilly here, and like we literally went from this amazing fall weather to kind of like almost
it dropped like 20
winter's coming.
degrees.
I don't know if you read the Lord of the Rings, but it's like the Mordor is here. But
Right.
so, what do you see? What is the biggest mistake that you see people make? When it comes to raw food, like just something they do wrong, either beginners or people who are already on it. Like, does anything come to mind like that?
Well, it was something we touched on, and I didn't know if you were going to ask this next, but well, I think the biggest thing, we opened the video talking about fruit, and I think that, even though I love fruit more than any other person on the planet, we have to maintain a balance of other foods that are not fruit. So obviously fruits. We have fruits, vegetables, green leafy vegetables. There is a place for some starches. Obviously nuts, seeds. Sprouts. Once we are able to get a nice balance of a wide spectrum of different foods that are grown in different ways from different parts of the world, or even if it's mostly local, I think you're giving yourself the best advantage by giving yourself a wide range of different foods.
I see. So basically, people do not get enough of the range of the variety. They try to, maybe they see.
Well, you know what I see happens, especially with more of the fanatic fruitarians, is that like when you come into this diet and you start to eat fruit, you feel amazing.
Yes,
like,
a lot of energy.
Your energy is off the charts.
Yes.
And the thing is that, but it won't stay like that.
It's exactly what happened, because that's what I did, and but I include more variety now.
But see, when we look at fruit, again, fruit is one step above fruit juice, and so if we look at fruit juice as being, again, fruit and fruit juice, even though it nourishes you, it detoxes you as well.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't detoxes you as much as water, but it still detoxes. Now, fruit has, again, when we look at the scale, the more nourishing a fruit is, or food, the less there's like a relationship between nourishment and detox and cleansing.
Right.
So, fruits are very, actually, they don't nourish as much as, like, say, nuts and seeds.
Okay.
Nuts and seeds are very nourishing, but they move through the digestive system much slower.
Yes,
Okay.
much heavier to
Much
process.
heavier.
Yes.
And so do green leafy vegetables. They move through the system. So when we have fruit, when we're eating fruit, it's moving through the system very quickly. It gives us a high, okay? But you're not going to maintain that high. And the thing is, like, you have to come back down to earth and eat some grounding foods.
Yes.
Some mainly green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables will center you and keep you grounded, because you won't be able to maintain that high. And the thing is that if you try to eat fruit long term, mostly fruit long term, you're going to run into deficiencies.
Yes.
So that's one of the main things that I see people make as a mistake.
So just be too fanatical about one particular type.
Exactly.
So,
because of that amazing high they feel initially.
Yes. Yeah.
They get addicted to the high.
Yes, that's not going to last. And actually, I will probably make a separate video just explaining why what Khepra calls high eventually comes down. And it's funny to use that language, like coming down to earth, because I was describing it to someone when I was on fruit, and I said, it's like I'm flying high, and I need to get closer to earth,
balance,
right? So,
balance.
Okay, so just one quick thing before we wrap up. I think the camera is about to die too. So, if somebody's watching this and they're, just kind of hearing it for the first time, the raw food, the nutrition, the fasting, the detox, like what are some things they can do, to either to get more information or, to check, to understand what's going on, like what the community is about, like what are some good ways to get into this thing?
Well, you got to consistently educate yourself. You can't listen to one person or any, you have to read, you have to get as much knowledge from as many different sources. Just like we got to eat a lot of different foods, we have to, knowledge is a form of nourishment, mental.
Yes.
So we have to, just don't listen to me or anyone. You gotta listen to me and everybody, and then use your own critical mind to make a decision what's best for you. I don't even go as far as to say the raw food diet is the best diet. It's the best diet for me, but it may not be the best diet for you.
Those are wise words. Those
Yes.
are very wise words.
And see,
yeah.
and so, because I understand food is not just about what we eat. It's about family, it's about community, it's about a lot of different things. I mean, I meet a lot of people that have a great relationship with their food in terms of the raw food, and they eat mostly raw or they eat raw seasonally, and that's fine. I mean, we're here ultimately to experience this life on earth.
Yes.
And if it's for a short time or a longer time, then, so be it. The raw food diet, yes, I can argue that it is the best diet ever, and it is the optimal diet. And I can probably win that argument 9 times out of 10.
Right.
But you have to figure out what is best for you. Don't beat yourself up. Again, this is an animal. Be gentle. Food is very emotional.
Yes.
It's very social. And things like relationships and things that also matter in our lives also are just as important, if not more. So that's what I would say.
That's great advice. I would just have to add, you said be gentle. That's very important. You should never beat yourself over, failures or just some hiccups that you have, because you're all you have, really. So you should take care of yourself as a soul, as a body, and just use the power of small victories. Every day you can change a little bit, and eventually in a year or 2 or even 10, you will have gone a long way. Versus if you just it's like trying to run a marathon. If you sit on the couch all day, like you're just gonna you'll probably die. That's what would happen. So, but hey, it was awesome. I'm giving you left hand because I'm holding the phone. So thanks for holding this interview. It's gotten really cold, so we're gonna walk back now. But thanks everyone for watching, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. That's been fun. So,
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
See you later.
All right.